Welcome to the Brand Gravity Show, where we explore the intersection between psychology and branding. I am your host, Kaye Putnam, psychology-driven brand strategist, and my guest today is Blubaugh. I think Christine is an absolute genius when it comes to crafting sales messages that connect on a psychological and emotional level with the people that you are selling to. So once you know what your offer is and you have this brand and you need to sell what you're selling, Christine is the person that you want to listen to. I cannot wait to share all of the gems with you in this episode. If you want to become a sought-after expert with a sold-out offer, Blubaugh is a conversion copywriter and marketing mentor who helps online entrepreneurs do just that. She's helped her clients bring in as much as $700,000 in a single launch, and she's supported hundreds of business owners to create messaging and strategy to sell out launches and sign more clients. When she's not crafting high-converting words, Christine is probably on a hike, working on her Spanish, or planning her next adventure. Let's get to the episode.
So I'm Blubaugh. I am a conversion copywriter and a marketing strategist, and I started this business back in 2016, a little bit accidentally. I was coming out of a career in health and wellness, and a friend actually hired me to help her with a writing project for her business. She was pitching to the media, and I just kind of helped her out really quick, and she hired me. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. Like, maybe I can make this like what I do, because I've always been a natural writer, and I had been building a business online for like 3 years prior to that. So kind of jumped into the world of copywriting and immediately niched into launching, and was able to work early on with some kind of heavy hitters behind the scenes. And since then have been helping people create, up to 7-figure launches with copy and messaging and marketing strategy. So yeah.
I'm so excited to dive in. You have such a breadth of knowledge, and I know that you have a superpower that many don't. I know, myself included, I can write, like I understand it. I've been studying it, but it still doesn't come easy to me. So I'm really excited for this conversation. To get us started, I know that you had a massive success with one of your clients, and it did not include growing the launch using ads. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So a client of mine, I'm just going to shout her out, Candace Coppola. She's a business coach for wedding professionals, really amazing person, author, just really heavy hitter. She came to me with this program that she had launched prior. And at the time she was calling it a membership, and, she'd gotten some people in, but she knew that it could be so much more. When she had come to me, she'd had a launch that was maybe like less than $3,000. And then we worked together, and her next launch was $41,000 using her existing audience.
Amazing.
Yes.
Just to give us a little bit more context, what did the launch look like? What was the structure of it?
Yeah, it was actually very simple. So she didn't want to run ads. She had done a workshop previously, sort of like webinar style, but her launch was primarily email focused. And so I think she had a list of around maybe 2,500 people, so not enormous, and a little bit on, Instagram stories or something like that. And she was doing enrollment calls. So the launch window was 2 weeks, so that she had time to book calls and talk to people on the phone. Yeah. And it was just super successful for her.
Amazing. And with 2,500 thereabouts, like that size list isn't unattainable for a lot of people. That creates an amazing sense of possibility for a lot of people listening, I'm sure, myself included, because that's amazing numbers. What was the price point of her offer?
Yeah. So when she first came to me, she was positioning this as a kind of like low ticket membership. And it was around I don't remember exactly. It was like $129 a month or something like that. And then we worked together. One of the things that we did work on, we actually largely focused on her actual offer when we worked together. I did write copy for her, but before we did that, when I go into working with someone, the first thing we do is get on a call and talk about all the things about the offer, about the ideal client, everything. And as she was telling me about what she was selling, there was just a disconnect between what the value that she was bringing and the way that she was positioning it. She was like, this is a lower ticket membership with like all this stuff, like all these modules and all these resources and all these things. But then she was also like, yeah, and I do a one-on-one call with them to kick off. And every month we do like hot seat coaching, and they have like their own custom like portal where I put all of their notes and everything. And I was like, whoa, like this is not a membership. This is like a group, like a high ticket group coaching program, mastermind kind of situation. So the first thing that we did was kind of reposition what it was that she was actually selling, and we raised the price. I'm trying to remember exactly what the price point was. It was definitely more than double like what she was already charging.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
we also made it a longer term commitment. So it wasn't like a month to month. It was like, you're in for 6 months to a year, and that's how long it's going to take you to get results. So it was a little bit of shifting that so that we increased the value of each person who was joining, which also helped to increase her revenue. But it also really gave people the opportunity to get really great results with what she was offering. And sometimes I think everybody wants to pack in like so much stuff into their offer, thinking that that's going to be the thing that makes people want it. But I think people were confused by that and a little overwhelmed. Sometimes like all the modules and all the resources, it's just like, whoa, like how am I ever going to get through all of that? So by actually changing the way we talked about her offer, and it was almost like a less is more situation, it actually made people want it and be willing to invest more to work with her.
It's so interesting, that paradox that happens with the relationship between client results and investment. And it bothers me in a way, like it feels like this shouldn't be true, but sometimes even everything else staying the same, when people invest more, they're more invested in the process. And by a result of that, they get better results. They see better results because they actually take the time to make time for the product and for the offer and for the transformation. So that makes a whole lot of sense to me. So when you're looking at this client or any other client that you're working with, what are some of the key ingredients that make an offer sell really well?
Yeah. So the very first thing, and this is something that I work on with every single client, whether they are like brand new or are already at like 7 figures, this is hands down the thing that everyone sort of like has the most challenges around. And this is basically like the thing that you're promising. So like your unique value proposition, some people call it like a program promise, whatever that is, but it's basically like the main outcome that people are going to achieve by working with you in a particular offer. Every single thing that you sell should have its own unique value proposition. And typically when people come to me, they either like don't really have, there really isn't anything, or it's not specific enough, it's not clear enough, or probably the most common thing is that it's really focused on the process that people are going to go through as opposed to the outcome that they're going to achieve by going through that process. And the issue with like focusing too much on the process is that you're basically telling people about all the work that they're going to have to do without the juicy, like, here's what you're going to get at the end of it. And that can be really overwhelming for people. And it's not that you want to like try to fool people into thinking that they don't have to do any work, but you don't want to promise people that they're going to have to do all this planning and creating and executing. And you know what I mean? Those words that are more like action driven. Your promise is like, here's what's at the end of the rainbow. Like, here's your pot of gold. Here's a thing that you're going to be able to do or be or have once you go through all of this. And then your messaging, and when you talk about any offer that you have, you want to always be coming back to that. So like if I'm talking about my copywriting services, I want to always be talking about how I'm going to help people have like multiple 5 to multiple 6-figure launches. I don't want to talk about how we're going to have to do a call and they're going to have to, go through a revision process and things like that. Like, yeah, that's it, but that's not like what they're paying for.
Mm-hmm. Before we move on to the next one, I really want to dive in a little bit deeper here because I feel like a lot of people struggle with this. How do you arrive at a compelling promise? And how do you know that you've arrived?
Yeah. So the way that I approach this is we look at it from a couple of different angles. One is like, what is most relevant and enticing for the people that you work with? What is it that they actually want most? And this is another part of the conversion copywriting process, is that we really dive into the mindset of the people that you work with. So we're not just coming up with language based on what you think. It has to always come back to what your most ideal person to join your thing is thinking. And what is it that they actually want? And how do we say that in the way that they are actually thinking it? This is another place people get tripped up with copy, is that they try to make it sound too like flowy, airy fairy or whatever, or it's just based on what they think. And we need to really get into the mind of the person that you work with and understand the exact words that they use. Like, what's the thought reel? What are they thinking they actually want? So we look at it from that angle. And then the other thing is, what can you actually deliver in the container that you are creating? So another thing that people struggle with is they think like, oh, well, my most ideal client wants to have a 7-figure business. But then if you're selling like a 6-week course or something, like you can't promise them that huge thing. So you have to determine like what sort of milestone on the journey to that big thing you can accomplish in whatever container it is that you are creating. This is why every single thing you offer needs to have its own promise, its own unique value proposition, because your 6-month coaching program versus like your $37 product, even if they're on the same sort of like topic, aren't going to get people to the same place. So you need to be really clear on what you can actually deliver. You do not want to overpromise. You want it to be something that people want, that you can successfully deliver on, because that's where you're going to get those results that help you sell more in the future.
Looking at sales copy from a brand perspective is so interesting because it's not actually where you're typically differentiated as a business, as a brand. Because when you're reflecting what's already in the minds of the market, that's not the place to be super unique and creative. You actually want to be that mirror for what people already are aware that they desire. And I think that that's such a key thing to underline. Like, this isn't the place where you necessarily are trying to stand out. It's the place where you're trying to get in alignment, or like show your market, show your people that you are in alignment with what they already desire, so that you're not trying to convince anybody that they need something, because that's not the position that we want to be in. It's not effective to be in the convincing seat. We just want to show people that we are selling something that they already really desire. Amazing. Okay, so we started with having a really compelling promise for each of our offers. What else do we need to build into our messaging to make it super effective?
The promise is, I look at this as sort of like an umbrella. So like the promise is the umbrella. Underneath that, you also have all of these other ways that people are going to benefit and positive things that they're going to take away from whatever it is that you're selling. So you also want to be super clear on those things. You've probably everybody's heard the word benefits before. That's like where these other sort of like outcomes, whether they're super tangible or a little bit less specific, all of the things that people are going to be able to take away. So this could be anything from like direct outcomes to more of like almost like a trickle down effect. So for instance, like I'm helping people with their launch copy. So like the main promise is like they're going to make X amount of money, but underneath that, they're going to have more time to focus on like, connecting with their community, like less stress. So like their launch is going to be smoother. Like there's all these other ways that they are going to benefit by, working with me in this particular offer. So you want to be super clear on what all of these things are, because sometimes people don't necessarily see how something is going to impact potentially other areas of their life or their business or whatever it is that you help people with. So you want to make sure that they are really seeing like the less obvious value of working with you. So those things that's the next piece.
We're going to get right back to the interview. For the next few seconds, I'm going to share with you my brand clarity collective and how it can help you grow your income and impact. If you're an entrepreneur who feels stuck or uncertain about what makes your brand stand out, then this is for you. The Brand Clarity Collective is a mastermind multiplied by mentorship. It's part online curriculum, part digital mastermind, and it's designed to help you get crystal clear brand clarity so you attract more perfect clients and grow your business. We have a thriving community of entrepreneurs who are all smart and driven. As a member of the collective, you get an all-access pass to all of my best branding courses, as well as access to our private community where you can connect with like-minded entrepreneurs and get feedback and support directly from me on our coaching calls. The Brand Clarity Collective is priced at just $297 per month, and after 6 months, you keep lifetime access to all of the courses. To learn more and to see if it's right for you, head over to my homepage at kayeputnam.com. There's a big section where you can click to learn more. I'll also include the link in the show notes wherever you are listening or watching. All right, let's get back.
This reminds me of the long string of disclaimers that come at the end of all of the pharmaceutical ads on TV, except flip it.
Yeah.
So it's like, instead of all of these dangers, let's make sure that we're sharing all of the possible benefits, positive side effects that the offer is going to have.
That's funny.
And that's so true, especially being the expert, like being in this chair where you're helping people get these transformations. We are privy to all of these amazing benefits that happen. And that doesn't have to be a detriment. I know a lot of my clients and students get tripped up a little bit because they get a little bit muddy between, okay, what's my primary promise? And then I know that it's also going to benefit all of these other areas. How do you actually delineate between those two things? Like, how do you decide what the crown jewel of a promise is and what falls under as side effects?
Yeah.
If you will.
So the promise really needs to be focused on the thing that is most top of mind for your person. So like, what is it, if they were Googling, what would the thing be that they were actually asking about and looking for? That's going to be your promise. The other benefits are obviously going to be things that they want, and it may be things that they are aware that they want, and it may be things that they don't even realize they could have. But ultimately, your promise needs to be that, like, number one, this is the thing that either I want or that I want solved, because that's going to be the most attention grabbing for them.
Yeah, thank you for rephrasing it that way. I think that you're exactly right. It's that awareness that's so key in that big promise. And like you said, maybe there is some level of awareness to the other things, but I think that might be a great way to separate out. And intuitively, we often know, like, we hear from people what they desire. We hear it in our intake forms. We hear it in our sales conversations. If you're having conversations with humans that are your potential clients, they're telling you what they want.
Yeah. And that brings up actually a really good point, and something that I say a lot is that you shouldn't be guessing at your sales copy. You should actually just be kind of taking what you're hearing from your people and kind of making it sound cohesive, but using their words and terminology. So if you are someone who is, you're running your business and you are talking with people on sales calls or whatever it might be, you want to always be taking notes. Like, I tell people anytime, like, sales calls are basically market research. So whether someone works with you or not, you're asking them all the questions, like, what is it that you're struggling with? What is it that you want? Like, why haven't you had that thing? Like, why is this the right time? All of those things. So write down, or if you can, record those calls because they're telling you exactly what you need to say in your messaging. And if you're newer and you're not yet like really immersed in all of that, like, I mean, there's other ways that you can go about this. You can obviously do like market research calls. You can do what we call message mining, which is going into, basically the internet and looking for where your people are hanging out and like noting the things that they're talking about. So this can be like Facebook groups. This can be like Reddit threads. It can be a lot of different things, but you always want to be looking for what your people are asking for and what they're saying, because that is your copy. It's not like something that you conjured up. It's like basically just reiterating what people are already telling you.
I felt like I unlocked such a secret when I discovered that. Like, oh, I just have to say back to the market the things that they're telling me. Of course, I need to use my discernment on what I can actually deliver on and what I can actually promise with integrity, but I'm just putting it back out there, and then that attracts more people exactly like them that have that same thought in their head.
Exactly. And also, I mean, it also helps you with like understanding what to offer. So if you're like, I don't know exactly what to sell, if everybody's asking for a certain thing, then you can create something that solves that problem.
Amazing. Okay, so we have big promise, we have these sub symptoms. Is there anything else that we need to really make sure that we have when we're crafting our irresistible offer?
Yeah, I think we talked about the difference between like promise versus process, but process can also be a really great thing to help you sell beyond just giving people what they want. So having your own sort of like unique kind of process or method or system can help differentiate you from other people who are doing and potentially promising the same exact thing as you. So a lot of people will have like their signature method. It might look like an acronym. It might look like a diagram, like a triangle or something with different things. Something like that for yourself can just be a really good way to kind of show people what they are investing in beyond like a result, and also to help you become known for something specific that you do.
Yes. And for people like me that are in the brand state of mind, this is where, like Christine said, you get that opportunity to stand out from substitutions or peers or other people that are offering similar things. And you get to be the expert. I think one of the most fun things about deciding what that process, that proprietary process or signature process is you get to pull in all of the different pieces from your expertise, from your toolbox, all of the different skills that have actually created the best result, and put it together into a unique system that nobody else has. And it is truly unique to you and your brand, and it becomes that differentiating factor. So I love that we're on the same page there. Do you have any advice that you give to people about how to define their own process?
Yeah, this is not like, my expertise is not helping people come up with like their signature process, but I will say, if it's something that I think sometimes, especially if for people who are newer, they're like, I'm too new to have this, or it just seems like how like you have to be in the business for 10 years and have like all this like wild experience and stuff. But the reality is, like, when you work with someone, you probably are taking them through some kind of steps. So you want to kind of think about like, what are the steps that I take someone through? And is there a way that I can sort of like group them together or define them so that it becomes like something that is replicable? And whether you are doing the exact same thing with a client every time or not, there's probably areas that you focus on. So like, what are those areas? And then basically name them. And you can do the acronym thing. You can just come up with like a name for your process. It could be like a Venn diagram or like a triangle or whatever it is. That part doesn't matter. But basically everyone, if you've worked with people, you are probably taking them through some kind of process. So map out those steps and see how you can just kind of play around with it. It's not something that you're necessarily going to hit on like right away, but kind of start just kind of playing around with that and see how you can define that. And if you can come up with some kind of a way to name that represents you.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a great opportunity to use on-brand language and again, to stand out and shine in that way. So if we're thinking about, and maybe this is just me as being an online marketer, but like we're thinking about perhaps like a long form sales page. So we have the big promise at the top. We're building desire with these side effects. I hate that I keep calling them that.
Benefits, positive side effects.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And then we're appeasing the left brain side or the left side of the brain with some of more of this logic, like, okay, what is this actually going to look like? We're starting to create some curiosity about how this might be different from other things that they've tried in the past through this proprietary process. What happens in the brain next that we have to address?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is really important if we're talking about sales copy, is to address the kind of the hangups or the reasons that people tell themselves that they can't, whether it's like, I'm not ready, or I think I need to have this other thing in place before I can do this. You need to get really clear on the top, like 3 to 5 kind of reasons why people in their head are telling themselves that it's not the right time or that they're not ready, so that you can address those things in your copy or even in your content, like before, like you even launch something. So I'm a big believer in the power of the pre-launch. So basically like getting people ready before you even open the doors to something, so that they are in a place where they either know it's a fit or they don't, so that when you open a cart, people are like, okay, yes, or maybe, or probably not. And one of the ways that you do that is by getting really clear on the reasons why. So for instance, I was running a course prior about how to write essentially for social media. And some of the reasons why I know people would feel like they weren't ready would be like, I don't have enough followers, so like I can't do this yet. Or I just need to be more consistent and then I'll be fine. Or the only way that I'm going to be able to do this is if I'm really spammy and salesy, and I don't want to be that way. So those were like the top 3 sort of objections or reasons why I knew my people would feel like they weren't ready for this. And then you want to like reframe those things. So I know that they didn't actually need like thousands of followers in order to be successful with what I was teaching. So I could help them see that. I knew that it wasn't just about being more consistent. They needed to actually have like really clear messaging, and then they could be successful with a smaller following. And I also knew that like you don't have to be spammy and salesy in order to make this work. So I would help them see these things prior to even launching my offer. And then again, on the sales page, I was addressing these things so that people could see like, oh, you want to help your people have kind of an aha moment, so that they're like, oh, well, maybe actually this can work for me. Like maybe I am ready for this. Let me learn more,
Brilliant. How do you go about creating that epiphany moment? Like and maybe I'm getting a little bit too in the weeds here, but I think that this is really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
How do you actually write a post that shifts somebody's belief?
Yeah. So basically, the first step is to address what they currently believe. So I might say something like, okay, you want to be successful on social media, you want to get clients this way, but you think you need to have 10,000 followers in order to do that. Or you think that you just need to post 3 times a day, or you think you need to like just spam people in the DMs. Then I would say something like, actually, you don't need any of those things. You need to first have a clear message that attracts the right people and shows off the value of your offer. Then when you have that, it doesn't matter if you only have a couple hundred followers, and you don't have to post every day, and you don't have to be weird and spammy and salesy. Like you can create content that gets people messaging you, asking about your offer. And then I might throw in a testimonial from a client who achieved that. And then I would introduce my offer. This is what we're doing in my program XYZ. Doors are opening or doors are open. Here's the promise. A couple other ways that you're going to benefit. Click the link or send me a DM. Yeah. So it's basically introduce the current belief, tell them why that's not true and what is. Testimonial, introduce the offer, call to action. That's like the basic.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Mic drop. Amazing. And those types of posts, that type of content is magical in positioning you as an authority, as an expert. Because if you're taking that commonly held belief and helping somebody change the way that they think about something, you naturally become like the expert in their minds because you're literally helping them, like you're teaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's really powerful when it's a belief shift, not just little bits of facts and data that you're communicating.
Definitely. Tips and things are great, and that can be helpful and like you said, helping people have that kind of mindset shift can be even bigger. And also they will want more from you. They will want to know because they're going to feel something different. And that's really powerful.
Yeah. Huge, huge. Okay. One last question about this, and then I want to wrap up with some faster, quick fire type questions. I am so intrigued. Actually, I'm not intrigued. I'm selfishly interested in the pre-launch because I am so bad at this. I just like throw offers out there once they're ready. What is your typical pre-launch process?
Yeah. So it will depend. It will depend on kind of like the size of the launch and, different things. Cause sometimes like I'll work with clients and we'll have like a full 3-month pre-launch process, but they're like working with affiliates and like running ads. And there's like a lot of moving pieces. You don't necessarily need to have that long of a runway. I would say if it's something that is like newer or not something that you are launching like all the time, give yourself like a month. And then basically you're going to do the things that we have already talked about. Really, you're going to introduce like the problem that you help people solve so that they understand like, oh yeah, actually I do. That's something that I need help with. You're going to address the things that they are kind of currently struggling with and the reasons why they think like they might not be able to solve that problem. You're going to talk about your offer. So let people know, hey, this thing is coming. Don't hide it or wait until like the last minute to talk about it. Like let people know, especially nowadays. Like you'll hear people talking a lot recently about how kind of buyer behavior is shifting some. People are taking more time, especially for larger investments, taking more time to consider making those investments. So the more time you give people the more of a heads up you give them on like, this thing is coming. You can even tell them the price point, like way in advance to let people know so that they can plan. Like you're showing people that one, you're just transparent and open, and you're also just giving them the gift of time to plan for something. So like talking about your offer, talking about the promise, basically you want to like pretend like you're already launching during your pre-launch, only it's not for sale yet. So then when you open the cart, people are like already ready. They're like, yes, I just want, like, can you just like send me the thing so that I can pay you?
Take my money.
Yeah. or they know it's not for them. You know what I mean? Which is also completely okay. You want some people to be like, no, this is not for me. Don't get afraid or shy away from people being a no. That means that your messaging is like really spot on.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. Brilliant, and something I need to improve for sure. So my humans, they love to learn. I think I just attract smart people, which I love, yourself included, Christine.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for this conversation. What is your strategy for learning new things in business?
Ooh, yes. So I am a big podcasts are like my thing. I take walks every day. So I'm always like throwing on a podcast to see kind of like what I can learn. Yeah. I used to be like a book person, like reading about things, but then once I kind of got on to there's so much brilliance in these shows and people giving away like so much. It's amazing. So that's my main jam.
And then my final question before I ask you about where people can find you, if you could like airdrop an idea to everybody's minds that is listening or watching this, what would you want everybody to know?
Gosh, we've covered so much around like messaging and launching, I would say that around everything that we have kind of talked about so far is that it's okay if you don't hit it right on the head the very first try. Like messaging is a kind of living, breathing thing. Your offers may shift. You may land on some language after you've launched a few times that just is like exactly it. So don't feel like you have to get it perfect right away, because the more you work with people, the more you run an offer, like the more clarity that you're going to get around it. So it's okay to be imperfect and adjust as you go and get more clarity.
100%. That has absolutely been my experience as well. Every time I sell something again, it gets better and better. And often even the act of launching itself is the thing that created more of those ideas. And not just from the people that purchased, but just people who engaged with the content from a launch. I feel like you learn so much. Really, really beautiful. Where can people find you? And I believe you have an amazing freebie that we can send people to check out as well. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, definitely. So ChristineBlubaugh.com. And then I'm at Christine Blubaugh pretty much everywhere online. Instagram is my main platform. If you learned anything from this, or if you just want to say, hey, like send me a message, I love to connect with people there. So that would be wonderful. And yeah, I do have a special freebie for you guys. It's 4 sales emails and post formulas. Basically, so the post kind of formula that we talked about earlier, if you want to actually have like a template for that and see like an example, it's in there. It's at christineblubaugh.com/formulas. And yeah, there's like 4 different templates and examples for basically like for the 4 most impactful types of content that you can send via email or post on social. So definitely grab those and enjoy.
Sweet. Thank you so much. I'm going to go grab those too. I feel like that's such an amazing shortcut when somebody does the thinking in advance for you.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So yes, thank you so much. We'll have all those links on my website in the show notes and below this video if you're watching on YouTube, all those good things. Christine, thank you so much. You have been such a joy and shared so much that is so immediately applicable to anybody that's building an online brand. So I super appreciate your time and sharing your genius with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Every time I take a step back and look at sales messaging, I always realize that I'm missing some element. I would love to know in the comments, or if you are on a podcast app, to reach out to Christine or I on Instagram and let us know what you are going to work on in your sales messaging now that you have listened to this episode. Take that one small action now and see how that shift impacts your sales. If you want to catch any of the resources that we mentioned in our chat, make sure to head over to kputnam.com, and in the podcast section of my site, you'll see all of the previous episodes, show notes, links, resources, all of that good jazz. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.